After months of anticipation, Mario Tennis Aces has finally been released. Ever since its announcement in January of 2018, this game has received a ton of hype for its revitalization and reinvention of tennis gameplay in the Mario series. After what has been considered relatively mediocre titles by fans, this looks to be the one game to bring back the lifeblood of Mario Tennis.
I don't think I can personally speak for everyone who is excited to get their hands on Aces, but I think I can safely say that for many, that excitement comes from a form of nostalgia for another beloved title in the Mario franchise. And for that, we have to go back to 2004.
2004 was quite the year for Nintendo. Reggie was kicking ass and taking names at E3. The DS was launched and would go on to be the best-selling video game system of all time. Oh my god, those numbers! But more specifically, people were treated to a ton of awesome video games. Paper Mario, Pikmin 2, Zelda 4 Swords, Mario Party 6, 2 Metroid games, Pokemon, Kirby, Fire Emblem, Sonic, and yes, I do like Sonic Advance 3, sue me.
The Game Boy Advance and GameCube era gave us some of the most fun and memorable games in Nintendo's history. And it's also during this time that some of the most celebrated Mario sports games were released. And with the exception of Mario Strikers, developed by Next Level Games, or that weird collaboration with Square Enix, if you played a Mario sports game, it was probably developed by Camelot.
Funnily enough, Camelot has actually been around for a lot longer than one might think. They actually started out as a parent company for Sega in the 90s under the name Sega CD4, but they would go on to create the Shining Force games on multiple Sega systems. Although at one point their company was changed to Sonic Software Planning. Okay, one, why the exclamation point? And two, Camelot actually never made a single Sonic game, so why? A few name changes and even a bit of collaboration with PlayStation later, Camelot decided to leave Sega and establish a new partnership with Nintendo, and in 1999, they released Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color and Nintendo 64, with Mario Tennis releasing a year afterward. And then Camelot just went at it on Nintendo systems with the Golden Sun series, more Mario Golf games, and the main star of today's presentation.
Mario Power Tennis, released in 2004 for the Nintendo GameCube, is considered by many to be the king of Mario sports games. And while I haven't played that many Mario sports games personally, I'm inclined to agree. I'm just gonna get my bias out of the way. I freaking love this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Heck, it's my freaking childhood. I remember renting this game a lot back in the mid-2000s, and I played the crap out of it during every rental. I would have actually played it with friends, but I didn't really have any friends back then because I was kind of a socially awkward child, so I kind of played this game by myself. But you know what? I still had fun playing this game back in the day. So who needs good friends in a social life when you can just play some good video games by yourself? That is the lesson of the segment, everybody. I actually didn't buy this game when I was younger or even ask for it for my birthday from my parents. I guess because I rented it so much, I didn't feel like I needed to own it. I actually picked up this particular copy from a gaming convention a couple years ago with, might I add, the manual and inserts intact. It's actually kind of scary to think about that within this age of digital distribution for video games, there are probably a good amount of people that don't even know that these things even existed. But hey, the industry's changing. Can't really stop that now, can I? And that's actually the peculiar thing. This game is now 14 years old, and a lot has changed in the industry since then, so does this game actually still hold up today? Guess we'll just have to find out, will we? And before anybody asks, yes, I am aware that there is a new Play Control version of that game. For those who don't know, it's basically a port of the original game to the Wii with added motion controls. I won't be covering that version because one, it's basically the exact same game, and two, I'll take buttons over motion controls any day. Also, the GameCube controller is one of the best controllers ever made, don't at me. But with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mario Power Tennis.
So there really isn't a story in this game per se, but I'd be crazy not to talk about this intro. This is probably one of the most memorable introductions in Mario history just for how ridiculous and hilarious it is. You got rivals facing off intense tennis matches, you got ominous foreshadowing of future events, you got Wario and Waluigi acting like bags of salts, you got police chases, you got evil schemes, you got training montages, you got a sabotage, you got a tennis battle, you got explosions! And it's all in the span of a tiny 5-minute intro. There's literally no point to this, but god do I miss these kinds of intros in video games. It adds this sense of charm that resonates throughout the entire game. From the little cutscenes that occur after winning tournaments to even blooper reels for the intro cutscene. I must have watched these bloopers so many times on YouTube. If you get the chance, I'll link to the main intro and the bloopers in the description. They're freaking amazing. I'll also link to all the victory scenes as well. They're pretty good too. Although side tangents, why does Luigi go through so much crap in these victory scenes? scenes. He gets eaten by Yoshi, his foot is squished by Mario's out of jealousy, he gets chased by an angry Wiggler, and he's potentially scarred by the image of Shy Guy without his mask on. Then again, I still find these scenes funny, as I imagine a lot of people would, so I guess I shouldn't be the one talking. Also, this scene with Bowser. That will forever be funny to me. Alright, so full disclosure before we dive in, I wanted to make sure you guys got the best visual fidelity possible for this video, so I decided to record everything via Shadowplay on my PC and with Dolphin, a GameCube and Wii emulator. It was either this, or I resort to using my crappy old Dazzle with piss poor video quality, and to that I say no. Though there is a small quirk to using this recording method, but I'll get to that later. Also, for more clarification, the actual ISO file for this game was ripped from a legit copy of the game off a legit console that I own. This is what the devs of Dolphin recommend, and I did just that. I'll leave a link to Dolphin's FAQ in the description. So there, don't go talking about any legal crap in the comments, alright? I didn't download this game, I ripped it myself. Also, please don't sue me, Nintendo.
If there's one thing about Nintendo that's been prevalent for years, it's their use of visual style over graphical fidelity. It's the reason why games like Wind Waker or Mario Galaxy have aged incredibly well. And Mario Power Tennis is one of those games.
Granted, the native resolution of this footage is higher, but even at a higher resolution, this game holds up surprisingly well. The character models are well constructed, the map designs, especially on the gimmick courses, look fantastic with tons of variety in looks and style, and the use of various forms of lighting and particle effects creates an overall clean presentation. Although I wouldn't say the same about all of the texture work, some are more noticeable than others, but blown up to 1080p, you do notice some pixelation within the textures. Also, the CGI cutscenes look noticeably compressed and low res as well. But if you're playing the game on a CRT, like I've done in the past, these quirks are barely noticeable. This game has a great art style that allows for a clean looking experience. It's vibrant and full of life, which I think is important in order to convey this game's charm. Some stages especially are noteworthy for their surrounding environments, from an arcade classic to a bustling factory. And did I mention the victory animations? They just put a smile on my face every time I look at them. Although that's assuming you play in singles tournaments, because if you play in doubles, the characters jump around, high five, or fist bump each other, and that's it. Nothing else. Kinda anticlimactic. Animation-wise, there are points where the game shows more of its age. It kinda looks like Koopa Troopa is standing on his toes here. But the personality is still very evident. I especially enjoy the sick dance moves that Petty puts on after a match, and Yoshi, how hard are you swinging that thing to get knocked out? Despite the minor gripes, however, this game still looks fantastic today. It's bright and colorful with tons of small elements that improve the overall presentation. Let's also not forget that a game that looks this good still manages to keep a locked 60 frames per second even on actual hardware. Although there can be slowdown at times on actual hardware. This can mainly occur during offensive power shots and even when too much is on screen. Nothing that really affects gameplay though, and honestly that's probably the biggest reason for why this game aged so gracefully. A fantastic presentation paired with fast performance is what allows Mario Power Tennis to stand out on its own visually. A prime example of style over graphical fidelity.
Okay, so this might seem a little bit weird. Whenever I talk about Mario Power Tennis, I don't tend to talk about the soundtrack because it's not really one of those OSTs that I can just blast on for hours on repeat. Pretty much all the tracks in the game are meant to add this tense atmosphere into the tennis matches in order to make any sense of emptiness to be non-existent. That being said, listening back to all the tracks, it's still a pretty good soundtrack.
Motoi Sagaraba is the one responsible for this OST. He actually has a very impressive backlog of games that he composed by himself or with other composers. Golden Sun, Super Smash Bros., various Tales games, Star Ocean, Kid Icarus Uprising, which if you haven't played Uprising, go freaking play it. It's made by Sakurai and it's amazing. You're welcome.
God, this list goes on for so long. I wonder... Nope, not dealing with that crap. crap.
Anyway, music-wise, Sakuraba does a great job in Power Tennis. Tons of upbeat tunes with a combination of keyboards, brass, and jazz instruments to give a distinct feel to the overall soundtrack. Admittedly, some tracks do end up sounding a bit samey to each other at times due to the similarities in composition and instruments, but generally speaking, there is a ton of variety, especially when it comes to the gimmick stages. Shoutouts to DK Jungle Court, the music in that stage is great. There's even different variations of music for each stage, depending on the current state of a tennis match, whether it's match point or tiebreaker. It's a nice detail that keeps the music from becoming stale. Though since it's the mode I've played the most, I will always remember the tournament music tracks. Semifinals and gimmick finals, fantastic tracks. Though not everything is super memorable, and like I said earlier, it's not like I would be bopping to every track in the game for hours on end. But nothing here screams lazy or poorly executed, and personally, I think Sakuraba did a great job composing an upbeat soundtrack that keeps the energy going for any tennis match. Though Luigi's Mansion is kind of the exception to the upbeat rule, but the music fits so well in that chord, so I'll give it a pass. Nothing else to really say in the sound department, though I will give quick notice to the very taunts in the game. Many of them range from adorable to incredibly smug to whatever the frick Wario's doing. But the one taunt that will always be ingrained into my mind is Mario's, which is... yeah, that. So there you go. The game checks out just fine in the sound department. The soundtrack's nothing mind-blowing by any means, but it gets the job done, and it does that job pretty well.
Okay, time to mention the small quirk that I hinted at earlier. While I'll still be using footage that I recorded directly from Dolphin for the rest of this video, I did find out one teeny tiny technical issue. As it turns out, from testing the game on Dolphin and also playing the game on actual hardware, Dolphin actually does emit a little bit of input lag, which does affect gameplay. I would go back and fix it, but I've already recorded all the footage that I need for this video, so... whoops! So, to make sure this review is as accurate as possible, I did go back and play through the game on my CRT, so any critiques towards controls and game's difficulty will be towards actual hardware and not Dolphin. So apologies for the disclosure, just wanted to let you guys know because I didn't want any of this beautiful footage to go to waste. Also, again, it was that or my dazzle. No thanks. Anyway, despite the plethora of personality within this game in terms of silly taunts and victory animations, Mario Power Tennis is still, at its core, a tennis game. It still follows the standard rules of tennis in terms of boundaries and weird point systems. I'm sorry, I don't watch tennis, so I am uneducated. That said, why this point system?
Mario Power Tennis itself is a direct sequel to Mario Tennis on the N64, and despite the upgrade in visuals and frame rate, the basic mechanics are relatively the same. You got your top spin, slice, lob, flat shot, drop shot, smash shot. I actually played a lot of Mario Tennis a few years ago because it was the closest thing to playing Power Tennis again, and you know what? It was a pretty good substitute. I actually like the N64 version. So the GameCube version has similar mechanics, but also offers so much more. For one, and I'm going to guess it's the increase in frame rate, the controls are so much tighter, but the inputs are incredibly responsive and things just feel faster and more fluid. There is a good amount of strategy with these tennis matches. Which shot are you going to use against the other player and when? It's a matter of figuring out the patterns of the opponent and exploiting that to your advantage. And one way to turn the tide is the game's main reason for its name: power shots. Each character has two types of power shots, offensive and defensive. As matches go on, your racket builds up power, and when it's powered up enough, the power shot is ready. Offensive is, generally speaking, an incredibly powerful shot with a certain side effect for the opposing player who hits it. Every offensive power shot is different, and it's all on the player to know their character and understand how to use their own power shot to turn the tide. Defensive is more for catching tennis balls from far away or from going out of bounds. They can be used to get a point, but generally it's to keep the ball on the court. The variety is not as high compared to offensive, however, the way characters hit the ball can definitely vary. Speaking of variety, there are a total of 18 characters to play around with, each with a dominant trait such as power, technique, tricky, speedy, or just all around. The character you choose will ultimately depend on your play style. Do you want more power in exchange for speed, or vice versa? Do you prefer curved shots or straight shots? What power shots do you prefer? There are many ways to approach these matches. I generally play with characters like Mario or Yoshi, but I will say that tricky characters like Boo definitely have an advantage for juking out players. And Paratroopa just kinda goes all over the place. The game also offers 3 different options for control: easy, normal, and technical. I always go with normal because then I don't have to worry about a separate button for lunges. Though I will say that on normal, it also automatically chooses the type of power shot with the push of a button, which is nice, but it's not exactly perfect. I can't even tell what the exact range is for activating each shot. There are times where I think I will do an offensive shot, and nope, I go for defensive even though the ball was literally right next to me. On Tactical, it's possible to manually select between offensive and defensive, so if you're fine with manual lunges, go with that mode. Just do not, by any means, use easy mode. It activates all power shots essentially right when the racket is all powered up, and side note, there are some cases where you'll want to wait to do a power shot in order to catch the opponent off guard. Do not use this mode. There's even different camera modes to try with locked cam, player cam, and dynamic cam. Player cam is my personal favorite because I feel like I'm in the most control with that particular camera. Though dynamic cam isn't that bad either, and it does add a cinematic effect to the tennis matches. It's pretty fun to use, unless you're playing as a larger character, then in that case, kill with fire.
Of course, a game is not just about its mechanics. It can make the game fun, but without any meat to support it, the game essentially falls flat. Of course, it's one thing to make an incredibly meatless product, but it is completely another to release it out in the world and charge full price for it. And if you think I'm exaggerating, one look at the Wii U eShop, still $50. Thank God I didn't actually buy it new.
Mario Power Tennis has plenty to do outside of just playing tennis, and even with just individual tennis matches, there's a good amount of variety. Exhibition is the free play mode of the game, where you and up to 3 friends battle it out in intense tennis matches in 1 of 10 varying courts. 3 are standard locations with different attributes like ball speed and ball bounce. These are generally for purists who just want to play a good game of regular tennis. As regular as this can be anyway. On the other hand, there are the 7 varying gimmick courts. Each gimmick course is based on a particular location or game in the Mario franchise, and each comes with its own little spin. Moving conveyor belts in Wario's factory, ghostly obstacles at Luigi's mansion, cleaning up goop in Delfino Plaza. Okay, seriously, hasn't Mario done enough in Sunshine? There's even a Mario Brothers court where you can defeat enemies to build up energy for power shots. It's really cool, and so are these court gimmicks. It adds a new twist to the matches that keep the gameplay from becoming dull. There's even options for point-based ring shots and wacky item battles a la Mario Kart, which is awesome. Although for some reason, all gimmicks in every gimmick stage are turned off for these types of matches. I kind of wish gimmicks could be turned on for something like item battles, but regardless, it's an incredibly fun time and can be great with friends. If you have friends to play with anyway. Tournament mode is pretty standard. There's multiple cups to compete in, with harder cups unlocking as you progress. It's basically just you versus AI, but in a more organized format. However, there is one advantage to playing this mode. At least in the singles category. After completing the first 3 Noble Cups for the first time, a new feature will unlock called Star Characters. These are essentially the same characters with better overall stats, and for every character, you must beat the first 3 cups to unlock their Star version. It's mainly for use in the Star Cups though, since those cups feature AI with only Star characters, and they do get pretty hard to deal with in the last cup, reading your every move as you try to avoid prolonging the game even more with freaking time breakers! Or, you know, you could just save scum it. Nothing really stopping you from that. I didn't exactly do that off screen, but I did make a backup just in case because frick Waluigi. But still, it's kind of cool to unlock better versions of all of these characters. Granted, you have to essentially play the same cup 18 times for everyone, but just space it out and hopefully you won't get bored compared to myself, who played through the same cup over and over again just to get all the victory animations. You're welcome. And that's the thing, if you plan to go for 100%, you will have to complete every cup as every character, and doing cups back to back can get repetitive after a while. Side note, you don't need to play the cups as every character to unlock everything, so just look up a guide and get what you need, and maybe go back every once in a while. Which also means no, you don't get a reward for completing everything. Just a bunch of bragging rights. You can also play every tournament in doubles, and there is content to unlock through there, but just as a recommendation, get what you need and get out. Firstly, you can't do 2-player through this mode, which is kind of dumb. Secondly, star characters can only be unlocked through singles cups. Thirdly, the trophies count towards your character, not the AI's. And lastly, the AI is incredibly inconsistent. Even on later cups, they will do some of the dumbest crap. Also, what's the point of star tournaments for doubles if they give you nothing? Other than trophies, there's nothing to unlock through these cups, so just don't bother. Even if you are playing with star characters, which do have decent AI admittedly, doubles can last a lot longer than singles, especially when the AI screws up or you screw up yourself. Look, sometimes the AI just doesn't want to stop doing rallies, not willing to take any openings, so I just rush in to get the ball, which has caused moments where the opposing team gets the point because I was hasty, which means that I'm also part of the problem. Now, where the game really shines in its content are the special games. This includes 8 varying challenges based on the various gimmick courses, and in single player, there are varying difficulties that unlock as you progress. I really like these because it tests the player on their understanding of the game's mechanics. In tournament mode, I feel feel like 90% of the time I'm using the topspin with drop shots sprinkled in here and there, and I'm able to win. Here, the rules of tennis are thrown out the window to truly test the player. Although some games are better than others. Games like Tennis Terror and Tic-Tac-Glow are great for testing one's own aiming skills. I was especially surprised at how much I enjoy Tic-Tac-Glow. Kind of adds a puzzle-solving aspect to the game. Chain Chomp Challenge and Coin Collectors, on the other hand, are frantic brawls against other players in order to garner the most points. Both are very enjoyable, although sometimes there's so much going on in Coin Collectors that it can be hard to tell where your character actually is. Artist on the Court is an interesting concept where you paint a canvas with actual paintballs. There's 5 canvases in all, each relating to a different character or set of characters. Multiple types of shots have to be used here, so it's great for practicing things like lobs and drop shots. Though it can be frustrating at times when so many paintballs are being thrown out at once and I can't do the right type of shot. Please slow down! Mecha Bowser Mayhem is also pretty fun. It's essentially a boss fight against the massive boss from Mario Sunshine, and since it doesn't take place on a roller coaster with rockets and poor aim, it's infinitely better. That aside, I love this fight. It's fast-paced with bob-ombs and bullet bills to reflect back on top of a barrage of energy emitting from your tennis racket for some reason. I wish the devs incorporated more boss battles into this type of minigame though. I think this could make for some really great boss fights. It's a very interesting and fun concept, and it's certainly better than the last 2 minigames. Okay, to be fair, Glooper Blooper Volley isn't bad, it's just really freaking hard. It's a long rally session with Gooper Blooper, who is also from Mario Sunshine. Wow, Nintendo really wanted to push Sunshine at the time, didn't they? The twist of the minigame is that if the ball lands on a square with an X on it, it's game over. This is a lot harder than it sounds. I mean, 20 rallies is simple enough, but 50 and even 100? Screw that. They even bait you within the minigame itself. Time goes on with only 1 X on the ground, and then, oh look, 2 X's, the ball landed on 1, game over. Cool. Although, ironically, despite playing with input lag, I managed to beat the second difficulty on Dolphin, while on actual hardware, I still can't freaking do it. How that works, I have no freaking clue. But hey, it's still better than Balloon Panic, and I do mean that. This one is boring and frustrating. You hit the tennis ball towards the board to flip panels and change various paths toward DK balloons. The main goal is to guide a set number of claptraps away from the balloons. 2 problems with this. 1, the minigame is kind of slow-paced with no way to speed up any of the claptraps, and 2, with every difficulty increase, another balloon is added in, and by the 3rd difficulty, yeah, no thank you, I'm out. Once again though, beat 2nd difficulty on Dolphin with input lag, can't beat it on actual hardware. Or maybe I just can't be bothered. As a whole, there's a good amount of single-player content in this game. It's why when I said earlier that I was fine playing it alone as a kid, I did actually mean it. And even nowadays, it could be a nice way to wind down and kill time, bring in some outside music or videos to listen to, and go at it. Heck, while playing the game off-stream for the review, I pulled up a Twitch stream and just played the game for a while. It's a good combination in my opinion, even if it's not a compliment to just the game itself. It's still clearly designed for multiple people, but if you're playing it alone, I think you'll have a pretty good time. Despite a few critiques and some aging aspects, Mario Power Tennis has aged incredibly well. Gameplay is fast and fluid, the visuals still hold up in many areas, there's tons of charm and personalities to the characters, the music is still really good, and it has just the right amount of content to sway players over for a while. It's not perfect by any means, but I still love this game, and to me, it's a prime example of a Mario sports game done right. Power Tennis comes as an easy recommendation to any Nintendo fan. If you are interested, you can find a used copy for just around 20 bucks. It's not the rarest game of the world, so go on, give this game a shot. No pun intended. Although, to bring this back up from earlier, there is a Wii version available as well, which is generally cheaper than its GameCube counterpart. It's basically the same game with a few visual tweaks and motion controls. Granted, I haven't played this version in years, but I will say that motion controls in the Wii version are mandatory, which means no compatibility for any other controllers, including GameCube. So yeah, just stick to the GameCube version. Though, if you are still unsure about this type of game in general, I'd recommend giving Mario Tennis on the N64 a shot. It's 10 bucks on the Wii U eShop, and while it's not the same game, its mechanics are similar enough that it will offer a little taste of what Power Tennis has to offer.
Man, it just makes me happy that this game is actually still incredibly fun today. In fact, there's a lot of games from my childhood that I still enjoy today. Mario Party 6, Kirby Air Ride, the Sonic Advance games, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, Sonic Adventure DX, kinda, but I can save those games for a different time. For now, I can definitely say that this game right here still holds up today. Although I probably won't be replaying this game for a while because due to the input lag problem on Dolphin, I did have to replay through the game a good amount on my CRT just to make sure the opinions of this video are as accurate as possible, and that was after replaying the same cup 18 times on Dolphin because I wanted high quality versions of all the victory animations. Don't say I never did anything for you.